cake.
Yes, I manufacture it. No, I got my own so.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular work session of the Burnsville City Council to order. The clerk would note that all council members are in the chambers as well as on staff. This meeting is being conducted both in person and online, and people can view us on burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or on Comcast Channel 16 or 859. And our residents and whomever would like to join us can do so at zoom.us/join. And more information is available on our meeting webpage and in the council agenda packet. Our work sessions, we go directly to our agenda. The first item on the agenda is the update on pedestrian safety efforts and community outreach. And I am going to go to Captain Stenger, who is going to introduce our guests and give us an overview before he introduces the guests.
Thank you.
Welcome, Captain.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members, for having us here. Appreciate you giving us just a couple of minutes. I know it's a very busy agenda, so we're going to do our best to keep it short and to the point. But I wanted to introduce Amber Hanson. She is with Ally Supportive Services and is one of our partners in our collaborative effort with Dakota County and our behavioral health unit in addressing these pedestrian issues and these outreach efforts. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amber.
All right.
Welcome, Amber.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me. Again, I'm Amber Hanson with Ally Supportive Services. I'm the Executive Director. Ally's been around here in Dakota County for just about 10 years doing housing and outreach services. Today, I really wanted to focus on just talking in a very broad overview of what we do at Ally, what we're doing here in Burnsville. We have been tracking citywide specific data for a few years, so I'm going to share that. We've been providing a lot of services to the panhandlers in Burnsville and surrounding cities lately. So I want to address that and give you some thoughts on what we're seeing on the street. I'm not a public speaker, by the way, so I'm going to do my best to navigate this. How do we get this going?
You are not.
Be able to just click hit. Oh, it went, yeah, it went off.
Or do we wing it?
It didn't stay up there.
Okay, well, there we go. So this is a very broad overview of Ally's programs. We have homeless street outreach, emergency hotel shelter for single adults, housing support for the long-term homeless, targeted outreach for Black and African Americans, and a trusted messenger program. And that is very specific to providing COVID information. All these very targeted to Dakota County. And the reason is I'm a Dakota County native, been doing this for about 25 years, and my passion is really bringing it back and serving our Dakota County community. Hastings, really, but I used to come up to the Burnsville Mall all the time. Part of what we do is collaborate with our local partners. Years ago, we started partnering with our Dakota County law enforcement with outreach in particular. It was not widely accepted at first, but I thought that it was going to be the best way to serve our unsheltered and our homeless population. And we've been doing this here in Burnsville and Dakota County for quite some time. Other folks we work with is 360 Communities, the Dakota County Social Services, the faith communities, Dakota County Libraries. Specifically here in Burnsville, we work very closely with Burnhaven Library to serve our unsheltered and connect our parks departments and the local businesses. They also have been very big collaborators with our street outreach team. This is the numbers that I've pulled quarterly from 2020 to now on how many folks we were making contact with in Burnsville. Now, this is very raw data. We collect this the best we can. As in, sometimes phone calls will come in and we don't know exactly where people are or if they don't tell us. but this will give you a pretty good idea of the trends and how many people. It is seasonal. We do see numbers vary by seasons. Right now, and then increased collaborations will affect this trend. I would imagine Q3 here in 2022, we're going to see already probably about an 80% increase in Burnsville contacts. That is largely due to our increased efforts in connecting with the increased panhandlers on the streets. This is actually, I think, from Q2, but it'll give you an idea also of, we do track it by city. And if you notice the larger pieces of the pie there, that bright orange one, that's Burnsville. So in Q2, we did have some of the most contacts here in Burnsville. And then secondly, you'll notice it's gray, West St. Paul. And then I believe the other kind of lighter orange is, it's hard to see from this far away, might be, I think that's South St. Paul. So out of Dakota County, stats are up there, and that is because we serve people and get calls from folks that are out of county. Ramsey County, Hennepin County, and Washington sometimes, largely Hennepin County. And that is probably the majority of the folks we're seeing here in Burnsville are actually Hennepin County residents, unsheltered or sheltered. What we're seeing specifically with panhandling in Burnsville, we're 75 to 90%, that's kind of a large range, are not Burnsville or Dakota County residents. This fluctuates a little bit with the beginning. We started really connecting with folks, I want to say late spring, early summer till now. But most of them are not Burnsville or Dakota County residents. 90% are not currently homeless. Now, in our third quarter stats, that might drop a little bit to around 75% are not currently homeless. They're panhandling really because it's lucrative, and they're telling us that. We're still offering services in alternate ways to increase their income, improve their living situation. Most of them are not interested in talking to us or hearing about the services that we could offer them. It is widely known now that Burnsville is very lucrative, so people are coming here to make money panhandling.
So lucrative, you mean that the people in Burnsville give them money?
They give them money, and they give them most money. Compared to across the border, maybe in Hennepin County or in West St. Paul, South St. Paul, Hastings, Burnsville is a place to be for panhandling to make a really good income. Is what they're telling us, and word is getting out. So we're seeing more and more, and we're hearing it more and more.
Yeah. Amber, one moment. Yes, Councilmember Keeley.
Question maybe for all of us, I guess, but one, sometimes the signs say, I'm homeless. 90% of them are not homeless.
That's true.
That is correct.
Is there fraudulent statements? Is there anything we can do with the fact that they are duping people for money by lying, saying they're homeless when they're not? Number one. Number two, can we advertise this information? Like communicate to our general public that 90% of these people that are panhandling in Burnsville are not homeless, and to not get duped by a cardboard sign with a magic marker that says that they're homeless or whatever else they're writing on there.
I'm guessing Gessner's probably watching.
He's watching.
Yeah, Amber and Captain and Chief, and the other is that I don't know what our attorneys would say, but I think that's a question we should ask our attorneys, because you're right. Because I've heard from a lot of our residents who have said to them, where are you from? And they're usually all from across the river. and then they leave all of the trash, and they don't like that. And a couple of our residents have picked up the trash because they don't like seeing it, but they're putting themselves in harm's way also to get out, park their car, and pick up the trash. But I do know that in other cities across the country, they have signs up that says, don't give money to the panhandlers. So I think we can do that. I don't know, but we can probably, I know that some other cities do that.
So we may
Did
not
you
be as
see
helpful
something? Yeah.
as we think.
Pasadena, they have the signs up, but they also have like kiosk up that you can, if you want to contribute to the homeless, you can put your credit card in or cash card in and contribute, and it goes to the charities that are going to help the people. And they encourage you not to give to the homeless on the streets, and at least on Colorado out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, Amber, you have tried, because I've seen some of your reports, that to give them resources. And I know that the pastors from Prince of Peace have also helped to give them resources, and they won't take it. 360, they won't take the help from 360 as well. So please proceed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But just to reinforce the statement, certain authorities will go after a business for committing fraud,
Yeah,
saying, like a fraudulent nonprofit, for example.
yeah.
Just to pick one out of the news, right? To donate to something that is not a true nonprofit.
yeah,
I mean, some of their signage says they're homeless.
yeah,
There must be something there. And then, of course, communicating to our citizens that 90% are not,
Yeah.
based on a study, can help educate the public not to be duped into it, not to
Yeah.
let their emotions or the sign and the
Yeah.
person
yeah.
cause them to pull money out of their pocket to donate to
Yeah.
their income, not their homelessness.
Do you criminalize it, or do we try to educate
Well-
the city itself to just
Well,
say?
I think it's twofold.
give to
There's
these
an
charities
education
and-
piece. The 90% are currently not homeless. But I think
I hear
there's
that part
something-
of it, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
how do we?
Well, I think this is
there's
where
something
our
to be said
attorneys come
for
in. We need our
fraudulent
attorneys to
representation
speak to us
for
about that.
For soliciting a donation.
Yeah,
I have no idea how you would do that.
Yeah.
Because I could say something to you and you give me $10. Are you gonna have the police arrest me because I told you a lie? Because that's what it
Yeah.
would be. It would be the same thing.
Yeah.
yeah. I think this is where
Well, this is
our
more
attorneys can
serial,
help
not
us.
a one-on-one, but it is one-on-one.
No,
but
I
it's-
get
but
that,
But
but-
it's like going on for 8 hours, right? And it's,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
a serial collection
Yeah,
of money under fraudulent pretenses,
Yeah.
right?
Well, if I were a betting person, I'm going to bet our police want no part of arresting people
Yeah.
and questioning them to find out if they're lying or not.
yeah, yeah.
Let's hear the rest of
Just
this
gonna go out on a limb.
presentation.
And that's why I say we need our attorneys to weigh in on this.
I
Greg?
get what you're saying about
Okay.
fraud. I do
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, Greg?
But you have solutions, don't you?
I just acknowledged Greg. Greg?
Mayor and Councilmember Healy, absolutely, it's a question we can ask the city attorney. We'll do that and follow up with the council. You know, I'm hearing the question, certainly Councilmember Schultz, that you're providing too. I would say that from my perspective, I try not to speak for Tanya, but I do think that puts our officers in a difficult position, to Councilmember Schultz's point, but nevertheless, a question worth exploring a bit more. I also want to say that although we've talked with you about some of our educational initiatives along the way, the past couple of months in particular, staff was really viewing this as the first public opportunity for the council to kind of talk about what we know today, the issue at hand. And I didn't want to get ahead of any of you in terms of staff direction on additional communication with the community or engagement with the community until I had a good idea where the council was from a policy perspective on this. So as much as we're trying to inform you tonight, I also wanted to kind of get a litmus test for where the council is at, and then we'll get back to working on what we think are some options and ideas for community communication, to your point, Councilmember Keeley, because I do think education is an important component here. I think around the table, the directors and staff would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think we can talk to our attorneys and they can guide us into what is doable
Sure.
from a policy perspective.
Just to
Yes.
follow up, think of it differently. Let's assume that they are allowed to do what they're doing, then they're conducting business in the city. Don't we require a license or a peddler's license for them to conduct business? So if they're not using a sign that is fraudulently inducing people to give them money for, I'm homeless, if they're using some other like, I need help, or I want help, or can you give something to me?
Yeah.
They're conducting a business
Yes, they
in
are.
the city.
Yeah.
Thus would require, which we wouldn't offer a peddler's license for
Yeah.
doing what they're doing. So I don't know, I'm just trying to think differently,
and I-
approaching
and-
it differently
Yeah.
than just the emotional reaction of
Yeah.
the city is frustrated, residents are very frustrated, they've made it very clear to me over the last several months that they're sick and tired of seeing these peddlers out on our streets.
Yeah.
They think it's a major safety concern.
Yeah.
They don't like the trash.
Yeah.
And they don't like how it reflects on our city.
Yeah, and we've all gotten that, so I think it is, and I agree with you because I had asked, can we, constitutionally, can we, they need a permit. So I think our attorneys need to weigh in on that as well.
Well, no, part of the intention, Mayor and Council, of this conversation was to address the pure fact that we do, from a staff perspective, from an operations perspective in PD, have a real concern about pedestrians in the roadway and traffic safety. And that's something that I have told Tanya that I absolutely support us not only educating the community, but educating folks out that are in the roadway in particular, and the motoring public about the issues that we see related to that behavior.
Although, on how it reflects on Burnsville, from what I'm hearing, it reflects really well on Burnsville and our residents. So, I mean, if you're looking for the bright spot,
That would easily go.
I mean, that's a huge one.
We're generous, right?
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
that our residents are caring, and they feel very compassionate towards people, and they are willing to directly help someone that they see or perceive to be in need. So,
Well,
I mean, that does reflect
but I
really
think
well on our residents, I think.
I've heard from people who don't live here but do business in Burnsville from Jordan and cities south, and they don't like coming up here and having to be bombarded with people in the medians asking for money, and they don't like that. So, but I'm going to go back to Amber so she can finish her report. Amber.
You had no idea you opened that can of worms.
Well, I think she has an idea.
I
She
think we're
she
prepared.
knows.
I did. Actually,
She
I'm
also
usually
has
there's a
that
lot of
lucrative panhandling options.
There's a lot of comments and questions usually when it comes to just the topic of homelessness and housing. But I love your guys' discussion, really, because this is what we talk about, is we have this homeless issue, a significant one, or we thought it was a homeless issue. This is actually not, but it is a related issue. But how do we solve it? And this is why I'm here tonight, because I'm super passionate about education, and this is where we start with our leadership. And I think the way to start change in this panhandling in Burnsville is by educating and bringing the community together. I think if the Burnsville community had the right information on safety, how the money is actually being, how much money and how it's being used, and how to give more effectively to actually help the unsheltered, we could make a really big difference in Burnsville. So that's why I'm here. Safety issues was my next bullet. We do note safety issues all around. My outreach team has experienced them. We notice the safety issues of the folks standing out there with signs, asking for money, the drivers, and then my staff has experienced it as well. It's the safety issues of the roadway, but then also safety issues of approaching these folks. Many times they're very aggressive, and the public too should be mindful of that and know that just approaching these folks is not always safe. And then this brings me to the community education, effective ways to actually support those that are in need. And I want to stress that even though a lot of the folks out there may not be homeless, it doesn't mean they aren't in need of something, a greater income, more services, better housing, and improved lifestyle. But there are more effective ways to do that. And these are the ways that I would identify as low barrier. I am a huge supporter of low barrier help. Not a lot of red tape. Let's just simply see the human and help them. So faith communities are great at that. Burnsville particularly has wonderful faith communities that are really low barrier and helping those in need. Another big one, which we talked about, is 360s. My favorite, great organization, low barrier. The link serves the youth. Neighbors Inc., which is a little ways away, another one of my favorites to donate to. And then items, though, for street outreach, we love gift cards for street outreach, like gas cards.
Yeah.
For folks that are outside, it provides food, a place to be warm in the winter, gas to be warm in the winter, cool in the summer. So those are super effective ways instead of handing the money. I really like that kiosk thing too. I heard a church has one. And I think it goes directly to an organization. And those can be really effective as long as it's easily accessible and low barrier. So that was it, trying to keep it short.
Thank you. Kara?
Okay, so they may not be homeless, but you say they may have needs. So in speaking with them, what are those needs and why are they panhandling?
I would say it varies so greatly person to person. There often is chemical health use, so an immediate need would be to meet that need of drug or alcohol addiction. Another need might be getting somewhere. So some sort of transportation. I need money to pay somebody to drive me somewhere, get a bus card. That's realistic, that may happen. Put gas in my car. Sometimes folks, right around Christmas time, there will be a lot of people looking for extra money for gifts for their kids. Brings me back to, again, let's make it easily accessible for folks to get donated gifts. Some of the programs out there are not easily accessible. There's a lot of red tape. Been doing this many years, and I've seen a lot of families not be able to provide gifts to their kids, and so they'll panhandle. So there are some of those needs.
So those do sound like legitimate needs. So it does not sound like these are people who are well off and they're just raking in more money.
There are some. I wouldn't say, a lot of them are well off. There are, I don't want to be identifying particular individuals, but there are some people that are well off, and their primary job is panhandling.
Yes,
Just to
Dan.
follow up, I thought it was good information about the uses. Do you have any sense of what percentage of the panhandlers, based on the ones that you've interviewed, would you say is the drug and alcohol need versus the other less, more like kids' toys or transportation, more everyday needs versus addictions?
I'd go with about 70 to 90%.
Is
Is
addiction,
drug and alcohol.
which is why you see a fair percentage of people who are unsheltered. I mean, it's the same thing.
It's our getting help, when people are ready to get help
Yeah.
for chemical addiction, again, it's not easy and it's not
Yeah.
quick. The system, it just works, it doesn't work quickly. So we see that.
Amber, Chief, Captain, thank you so much for the partnership, because I do know that, because I had direct contact with some people who were in the Target parking lot, and that wasn't safe for them. And they had a sign that says, "We have 4 children and we need money for rent." So I went up to them and I said, "We have services for that in Dakota County." And so I had my contact information, but they wouldn't take it. So I said, "You want assistance for your rent, and this is how you can get it." No, 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 no. So you're not interested in getting help. So I left, but I said, I had written down the information from my contact, gave it to them, and I said, Dakota County has the resources that would help you with rent. And I also said, and here's 360 because they can help you with rent. Because we donate, the Lions Club donate to help with all of those efforts at 360. So there's a lot of organizations that are willing to help people who need help in Burnsville. Our faith community, our nonprofits, Dakota County, that partnership, and I thank you all for that partnership and the work that we're doing together, because it's tough work out there, and I know because I've stopped and tried to help, but
I have a
they
question
wouldn't
too when
take
you're
it.
done. I just want to, are you aware of any low barrier shelter opportunities that are available in Dakota County?
The lowest barrier shelter would probably be the one that Ally operates. It is right now emergency hotel shelter.
Yeah.
We have 35 beds. Turns over pretty quickly, have a wait list, but it's probably the lowest barrier. The requirements are, you do have to be outside, or we call a HUD homeless, which means outside in a car, in Dakota County verifiably, which is usually by our team. And connect with be able to follow hotel rules, shelter rules. So that's as low barrier, I think, as it gets. But it's not walk-in,
I was at Prince of Peace earlier this week or last week for the presentation from the county, and
Oh,
it's impressive of how many people you guys are actually dealing with
Yes.
annually in Dakota County, far more than a lot of people realize. And
yes.
Yeah. But thank you for the work that you're doing, Amber, you and your organization. Really appreciate it, and thank you for being a partner
Thank you,
with the
you
work
as
that
well.
we're doing here in Burnsville.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Captain. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is Phase 3 Facilities Pre-Design Project Update. Garrett Beck, our Recreation Facilities Director, is going to introduce our team and have some overview remarks. Did you have anything that you wanted to add to this, or?
I don't. Garrett has it well under control.
Okay, very good. Garrett, floor is yours.
Clap on.
Yeah, clap.
got the new technology.
Yeah.
I thought I installed that before. I'm sorry.
Must have been Tom.
Yes. I don't, but I will.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna drive, you've got the,
I will drive for a little bit and then we will share, because
Yeah.
we're a team. Here we
Okay.
go. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As mentioned, we are going to talk about our next step in the Phase 3 facility project. Just real quickly, want to cover just a brief history. The history of our facilities is long. I'm not going to go through that, just where we've been recently. Talk about our guiding principles, which we use to help lead us in any of the projects that we do. What that process looks like for facilities. As you mentioned, we'll get a chance to meet our consultant team and then really talk about what is pre-design. It's part of a normal process, but it's usually not called out specifically. And I'm excited that we are actually going through that process based on where we were before. And then just a little bit about the funding process and whatnot. So again, real quickly, earlier this year, we went through a space study process of 4 of our facilities of City Hall, Police, Fire Station 2, and our maintenance facility. What we learned in that space study is that there's definitely a need for space improvements for our facilities. And the space study only took us so far. These facilities are 25 to 30 years old, and there are challenges within them. There are challenges with our sites. And at the same time, we heard that evening that as we continue to advance along this process, we're looking for solutions that solve for the next 20 to 30 years. And a space study really didn't allow us to tackle that. It just really was about, yeah, there are some needs, there are some shortcomings, and it validated some of the things that we were thinking, but it really didn't provide us with the solutions and the information for staff to be able to make recommendations, for council to be able to make good decisions going forward. So fortunately that night, council's direction was, yes, staff, please engage in a pre-design process and also begin to explore land options for Fire Station 2. So to that, as I mentioned, our guiding principles are at the heart and soul of the things that we do. It really helps us to, as we're looking at questions and challenges and as things come up, as a team, we're able to reflect back to our guiding principles to make sure the solutions that we're looking at fit within those. And also, it does set a nice framework for how we present information going forward for each process. So again, if you followed our facilities story over the years, you will have seen these, but welcoming to the community, clear communication, effective and efficient, functional and flexible, sustainable, healthy, safe, and fiscally responsible. So as we're looking at these different buildings, some things like welcoming to the community may look different from a City Hall police perspective than a maintenance facility or a second fire station and whatnot. So it's not universal across all of them, but they all do have their importance within each project that we're taking a look at. Obviously, we want to clearly communicate. That's going to be consistent across everything that we do. And then, as I mentioned, the functional and flexible, really trying to make sure that when we're looking at solutions and options, how do we balance that functional and flexible to serve us for the next 20 to 30 years and also be fiscally responsible for now too, right? So there's lots of things that play off of each other, but we can always come back to these to make sure that we're doing well. So our process, I've had the privilege to be having gone through 2 of these with police and fire station. These are really best practices. We start with that space study to kind of understand what our needs are. From there, and even earlier than that, we identify our partners and our project team, both within our staff within the organization that are directly connected to these facilities, and then our outside partners that come beside us and help us to do projects well. The pre-design piece is step 3, and that really is a part of a schematic design process, and that's really where we are now. So we're going to kind of help try to figure out some of the answers that the space study left unanswered and try to get some more information come late January on what we're really dealing with to the best of our ability. If there is direction to move forward on a project, then you really get the full-blown schematic type situation where things start to come to life on paper. And then we start to move into that design and construction document, which allows us to go out to bid and ultimately begin a construction project. So again, that's just really a standard process for any facility project that our organization or others would do. With that, I am excited to introduce some folks who probably look familiar to our community and to the council here. CNH Architects, specifically Quinn and Brooke, were part of a very successful Fire Station #1 project that we are just coming off of that spanned between 2019 and 2022. And we're excited to have them on our team to do this pre-design. So with that, I'm gonna pass the mouse over to Quinn
Yeah.
and let him take it
And
away.
welcome, Quinn and Brooke. It's good to see you both again, and thank you for helping us out with this project that we're moving towards.
We're very excited to be here. Thank you, Mayor, council, staff. Most of you know a bit about us and worked along with us in the past. But for the others listening, a little bit about CNH Architects. We're a long-established firm in the South Metro. We have our offices just next door in Apple Valley, serving over 50 years. But at the same time, we have a long-term relationship with Burnsville and look forward to that as well. We work a lot in this public marketplace and in municipal design, whether it be other city halls we've done, community centers, police, maintenance facilities, park-related things, and of course, fire. So with that, I'll mention that Brooke and I will generally both be at meetings and presentations. We very much collaborate in our design and process, so we will be doing that in our presentations as well. And this, right.
Well, we are very excited to continue working with the city, not only Quinn and I, but our entire team. And as both Quinn and Garrett mentioned, we have a good history of successful projects with the city, with the Fire Station 1 completing, also the Able Burn facility that was a few years ago, as well as the recently completed Fire Station 2 study. So to just talk a little bit about the study process and the info gathering that we'll be doing, our first step is to understand that previous study that was done. So we're working with city staff to really understand the program, all the concept designs that were done so that we can take that information and move forward. We'll also do an in-depth review of the existing facilities. So we'll be gathering we'll review all the previously gathered information. We'll tour existing facilities, making sure that we're listening to city staff on what the needs are. And in addition to not only the existing facilities, but we'll go and tour municipal facilities at other cities as well to get feedback and what people like and don't like about those. And then we'll also be analyzing site constraints. This is new to the project, that didn't happen on the last study, but we'll be doing that through surveys, soil borings, city ordinances. And those will help us determine what the opportunities are on site as well as what some of the limitations are. And then we'll kind of take all of that information from this early phase and we'll use that to update the program that has already been started in the previous study and develop goals for the project.
Another big part that we're looking at bringing to this part of the study is community engagement. I know that the city feels strongly about that. We do too. We feel it's a very important part of gathering what not all stakeholders, and when I talk about stakeholders, it can be council, staff, citizens, guests of the city. They all interface, and it's important to understand what their perspectives are. So with that, we've brought members of our overall team that are very experienced with the community engagement, and some of our first steps, we sit down with city staff specifically in that realm and develop a work plan of different ways using their experience and the city's goals to really reach out and make that connection. With those different options. I want to point out that this will be a wide variety of methods. We're not just looking at online or in-person
surveys, or that we're really looking at lots of different ways to connect with the community and the stakeholders in general. And so that'd be parts of how to make that connection. And also important will be to reaching out in different ways so that we're connecting with different types of stakeholders and citizens. So we're really getting that broad expanse of that experience and interest is, within that opportunity to engage on this project. So, with that, it'll be something that we'll be starting right away, and we'll continue throughout the process. There's no necessarily, stop and start. The idea is to really continue that first in getting feedback on what the goals might be, what their current experiences are, things like that, and then moving through that, engaging them on where the city is going in the process and decisions that are being made so that we can communicate that with the city, the citizens as well. After the initial part that Brooke mentioned has been complete, we will work into actually doing designs and looking at how can the information we've gathered as a whole team. It's very important. Each member of the, the staff as well as each member of our design team all integrate into, coming up with ideas of things to explore. So we'll explore many different ways to try to meet the needs, the goals of each of the facilities, whether it's public works at the maintenance facility, police, or city hall, of course. All those elements need to, we'll work into that. And we're really looking forward to kind of gathering some of that additional information that we talked about earlier on and reach out broadly in different ways of considering how the sites in each case can play into opportunity. Yes, there are constraints, but that also means that there's ways that we can look at and develop approaches that haven't been looked at yet, and to really try to maximize the opportunity for the buildings on these sites. We'll come up with a bunch of varieties that get feedback and keep refining those through the process, working our way down from large to fewer. And then as we do that with additional feedback, we will also include 3D imaging as part of that process so that key parts of the different concepts can be looked at. So we're not just looking at diagrams or floor plans. We really want to see how does the facilities that we're looking at and how does those remodels and additions play in a welcoming, aesthetic, and flow in all those elements. So we'll look at key elements of that in 3D. And then as we narrow down and really focus on some recommendations and approach, we will develop cost estimates along with the construction manager, Kraus Anderson, that the city has selected, and provide that additional information as we kind of wrap up the study. And finally, we'll be presenting that to the broad members of stakeholders, certainly starting at council. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Garrett, unless you have any questions along the way.
Great, thanks, Quinn. As part of our guiding principles, the fiscally responsible piece is there, and one of the questions we always want to know is what is the solutions to our needs and what are the costs, right? And I know, having been through a couple space studies and then a couple projects after that, the estimates at the time of the space study are really just a reflection of the estimates at the time of the space study. And you really need to, again, our space study didn't identify solutions to all of our needs. So being able to go through this step allows us to continue to advance down the project line and continue to get good information so that if we do get to a point where we are going to order a project, we have the most and the best information available at the time, right? There are things out of our control currently going on, like bond rates or the construction market or supply chains, and all those kinds of things, if there is a project ordered at some point, are going to impact what the final cost of these projects are. We did a fire station, and it turned out we nailed one of the best times we could have done it, right? And nothing magic about how we got to that point, but that's what we got to, and it turned out to be a great situation for the city when it was all said and done. So some of these things we can control, some we can't. What we do know is we're gonna be working with our finance team, with Ellers, on a parallel course. As Quinn and Kraus Anderson and our core team are working together, finance and Ellers are gonna be working on looking at what are our funding options. We know some of the things, as we've seen on the screen, of what our current capabilities are for some of the debt service. And yet there are some things that we don't know that we're gonna be trying to find answers to, as far as, you know, what are our market cities doing with franchise fees, and what are some creative options for funding with property tax franchise fee options and combinations of those things. Not necessarily just to come up with an answer for right now, but to also be able to look at a long-term plan for that. So all of this takes time. We did float some numbers during the space study, and you heard me say that let's not get fixed on those, because again, it's a snapshot at that time. We don't know what we don't know. And come the end of January, we're gonna have a different picture with more answers from CNH and our team. And we'll have a chance to look at what does that all mean at that time.
Well, we went through the same process for Fire Station 1, and we understood what the first projections were, and then did some more work and came back, and there was an increase that we needed to address and amend. So we understand all of that. This is not the first time that we're going through this, and we understand that there are moving parts all the time. And there are many factors. So, but thank you for the update. Any questions from anybody? I like the fact that we are using the best practice in how we got to a successful Fire Station 1. We want to do the same thing when we go through these next projects. Learn from some of the things that we did with police, eliminate some of those challenges, and move towards the best practice. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay. Thank you so much, Gwen and Brooke. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
You know, was a winning team last time. I'm expecting the same.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I will add that Quinn and Brooke have, no pressure.
Yeah.
Quinn and Brooke have been great partners, mayor and council, and I'm very excited to continue to work with them, and appreciate your affirmation of our guiding principles and our process. And as we've talked about, we are committed to getting you the right information at the right time as we talk about the future of any particular project that you might decide to order or not.
Well, one of the things is that we have a good team. We have we have you folks, and we also have Kraus Anderson, who is part of that team, and we have Ellers. So we've got a team together. What I do like is that you're continuing with the community engagement, because Fire Station 1, I did not hear one objection because of the community engagement process that brought people to the table. And so, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming in. Members of our community, we are going to take a break, and that might be 20 minutes.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, or somewhere around there. So we're going to take a break at this time, and then we will reconvene in about 20 minutes. We're now reconvening our Burnsville City Council work session. The next item on our agenda is drinking water taste odor survey results and potential next steps. Carissa Larson, our Communications and Community Engagement Director, is presenting, along with William St. Amour of Cobalt Community Research and Ryan Peterson, Public Works Director. Carissa?
Thank
Floor
you,
is
Madam Mayor,
yours.
members of the council. I'm actually going to turn it over to Ryan first, and then
Oh, okay. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I get to start, and then Carissa will be making a more formal presentation, or formal introduction. So, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is about our safe drinking water, or it's about our taste and odor concerns that we've had, that we've seen in our last couple surveys. I'm not gonna get into a lot of that, as that Carissa will do that, and I would just be redundant to what she's saying. But I'm gonna focus on what our drinking water is safe, our history of our surface water plant addition, which is causing some of our problems, some of the things that we're currently doing. Carissa and the consultant will work on the survey, and then I'll be back for a recommended next step. But I just want to say right off the bat that the drinking water here is safe. The Department of Health reviews us. This is nothing to do about, is the water safe to drink? It is safe to drink. I'm confident the water in here is right out of Burnsville's tap. I drink it all the time. So that's not what we're focusing on. But just because it's safe doesn't mean that everyone enjoys it. So we've heard some concerns, and we're going to go through those tonight. Let's go to the next slide. So some of the challenges of the drinking water taste and odor came about almost certainly associated with the surface water plant. So that was a collaborative effort. In 2009, it was built between the city of Burnsville, the city of Savage, Kramer Mining and Materials, and the state of Minnesota, yep, Department of Natural Resources. So those four entities came together because they all saw the sustainability benefits of this. Our Kramer Mining used to pump excess water. They still pump excess water into the river, but we reduced that by taking some of it and turning it into drinking water by treating it as surface water. So instead of having 2.5 million gallons of water pumped into the river, we're now using that as a drinking water source. That has resulted in our aquifers being recharged in the area. Almost, if you go look at the different maps around the metro country, et cetera, aquifer levels, so that's the groundwater levels, have almost always are on the decline because humans are using more and more water. Because of this plant, we were able to see an increase in our aquifer level, making our water supply more sustainable and more dependable and less at risk of groundwater depletion of the aquifer. And it truly has worked. It also is really helpful to our number one customer, the city of Savage. They buy about $1 million of water from us a year, and they are now able to supply more of their residents' water without having to increase the amount of water that they're pumping. So it really did work out well for the users, which has resulted in some environmental things such as fens to continue to be successful. With that, the challenge we've seen with it is taste and odor. Just a couple of the things that causes this is now we're mixing two water sources. So we have groundwater, which still provides a bulk of the drinking water, and the surface water source. There's two different processes. We produce the water and then combine it into one product that goes out into the system. So that's the bulk of the presentation. Carissa, she's walking back to get the clicker to move to the next slide.
we got it for you, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Or Bethany can do it. She's good at that. And so then, what are we doing now to help the situation? We have staff monitoring at our surface water site, so we do go out there, test for different organics that may be in there. So we're evaluating what's happening. We're also at the treatment plant itself, literally smelling the water, tasting the water, observing different tests and sensors and that kind of thing. We're currently treating for iron and manganese removal, which is why someone might have a metallic taste with a chemical called promanganate. We are removing musty and earthy smells and tastes with two versions of activated carbon. We're always monitoring our chlorination levels. One big challenge with that is you have to have enough chlorine to get to the fire and to Savage. And then if you are a customer that's a quarter-mile away, you end up having perhaps more chlorine than you like there, just so it can last all the way to the end. So that's a lot of the things that we're doing now. And then we will move into Carissa's portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Ryan. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as you remember, we did our resident and business surveys in 2021. That's our scientific sample surveys that we conduct every 4 years. At that time, we looked for a new vendor and a new way to do those surveys. We hired Cobalt Community Research based on their expertise in working with government agencies, schools, nonprofits. So when those scores came back and we noted some lower scores regarding the drinking water, we asked Cobalt to come back and help us to create a survey specifically around questions that may help us dive deeper into what could be happening with resident experiences with their drinking water. So as Ryan mentioned, this is really about experience. This is about taste, smell, whether folks use it for cooking, bathing, drinking. It was to hone in on how do people use their water and how do they feel about their water. So William St. Amour, he's the executive director of Cobalt Community Research. He's here tonight via Zoom, and he will walk through some of the highlights of the survey results that we found. As a quick reminder, you may remember from our community survey results that some of our numbers here are presented as percentages of respondents. Some of them are presented as ratings or scores. It kind of depended on how the question was worded, what it was that we were after. So you'll see those on the slides. William will talk about it a little bit. And then I handed out a couple of pieces of paper to you. You've got the presentation that you're about to see. You have the survey instrument itself, so you can see what questions folks were asked. And then there's a packet of crosstabs in case you'd like to look a little bit deeper into some of the demographics. And we asked 2 open-ended questions, so I've provided you with those responses. I know that William will do a much more eloquent job of saying this than I will, but the open-ended comments are great and they're very insightful, but they're not the data. But it's very easy to focus on them because they tell their own story, but they're not always reflective of what the data really tells us. So I'd ask that you look at the data tonight and dive into the comments a little bit later. But with that, I'll turn it over to William.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Just to give you background for those of you who aren't familiar. Can you hear me?
Hold on. You go see they can hear him in the control room still.
No, I think it's us.
No, I think it's us.
We want to hear you, William. I hope you can hear us.
I can hear you great. Can you hear me yet?
I have a softener, but that's it.
So do I, but everybody in Burnsville should have one.
But it doesn't, I've never noticed a taste.
Never, yeah. Our neighbors that have.
Well, my next door neighbor, Doug, drinks only bottled water.
He's worried about our water. And he's worried about our water. It's next to the airport.
Carissa, are they working?
They are working on it,
In there. All those jet fuel tanks over there.
He thinks it's bad. I didn't think it was. If I could just fake it this way. Talk? That's not gonna work.
There's some
Okay, I think you want to try, William?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
All right, great, awesome. You got it. So for those of you who don't remember, Cobalt, we're a 501c3, not-for-profit. We work across the country. We're based over here just across the lake here in Michigan. And as Krista said, we work with a lot of communities across the U.S. on a number of different projects. And we often ask about water. That's part of our standard benchmarking. And so when we were looking at this last year, we saw that drinking water did become a concern for your residents, and we looked at some of the different benchmarks, and we saw your score over here in blue on the far right-hand side compared to the benchmarks. And while your utility services in general had very strong scores, this one in particular was significantly below the others, and it was pretty, it had a much stronger correlation with overall satisfaction, so more of a driver. And so we dove in more deeply to get a sense of what was going on with those perceptions and those experiences to provide a little bit more information. So the bottom line is that a lot of your residents don't like to drink city water. So only 72% drink it overall, and only 66% who live in multi-unit communities, multi-unit buildings drink it. Taste and mineral residue are the things that folks said particularly stood out when they were talking about their experience. When looking at drinking specifically, taste and smell are the biggest drivers when we actually correlated that out with overall satisfaction with the water. There is a lot of concern regarding the metallic taste, and there's also concern about the earthy, fishy characteristics. So we saw that in the data. We also saw that in the comments. Interestingly, about 56% of your residents are willing to pay more to have the water bumped up in terms of the quality. Only 17% are not willing to pay more, so there is some interest. And as we go into this, you'll see folks are using water softeners and filters and those kinds of things, and using a lot of bottled water. So there can be some cost offsets for residents as well. So let's talk a little bit about the methodology. So we sent a survey out with water bills back from April through June. It was an insert, and it also went electronically to your folks who manage their bills electronically. So we heard back from over 1,100 people, which is fantastic from a response standpoint. That gives you plus or minus 2.8% for your margin of error. There were 712 residents who provided account numbers, which allowed us to take all of their responses and plot them geographically. We added some jitters so that you can see exactly who that person was, but we did plot it across the map of the city so you can see, are there some correlations in terms of the experiences and the satisfactions and where they are in the city specifically. A lot of the details are available in the crosstabs. I know city staff have been looking at these with great interest, with great attention to try to figure out, okay, what exactly is going on. One other thing that I just wanted to highlight from a methodology standpoint is that we used a 6 scale instead of the 10-point scale that we used back in 2001 through 2021. And the reason for that is that with this kind of survey, we could use a simpler scale because we were using a different kind of math behind it. We're not looking at these kind of results, over an extended period of time to do the comparison. So it allows us to have a little bit of a simpler instrument. All right, let's dive into the results. So looking at how do you use city water, you can see as a percentage of the respondents what the most common uses are. So bathing and washing clothes are the biggest. You can see that drinking water is only about the 72%. Next slide. When we look at ratings of the city water, depending on how they use it, this is on a scale of 1 to 6. You can see that drinking water was just a little bit below a 2.5. So clearly, statistically, there are concerns that residents have regarding the water. Next slide. We want to take this data and look at it geographically. So this is just giving you a quick little snapshot of what the mapping looks like. And you can see the drinking water, the red being low scores and blue being higher scores. It's probably a little hard to see on your screen, but you can see red, it's a lot, the drinking water is a lot redder than the other areas. But we really don't have a strong geographical concentration of where those lower scores are, which was something we're hoping to find smoking guns, like, it's in this specific area. But that did not come out. But we do know that it's a general kind of issue that residents are having. Next slide. So we asked them what kind of water treatments they use in their home. You can see as a percentage that a majority of folks use either a water softener or a water filter. Only about 6% don't use either of those. So there is a lot of that conditioning going on once they get it to their side of the wall. Next slide, please. We looked at drinking water or bottled water and how that's used. You can see about 60% do use bottled water, so a pretty high percentage. Some of them use it for cooking as well, but not nearly as high of a percentage. Next slide, please. So we asked them, what is it about the drinking water? Rate the different characteristics of your drinking water so you can better understand what it is that you dislike or like. And you can see the taste of the water came out as the lowest score, just a little bit above the 2.5. The clarity of the water, had a much higher score, but the taste and then the smell were a couple of issues. The free of mineral residue also was a bit of a lower score as well. So none of them really said that your water is fantastic for any of these different dimensions, but the clarity was the highest score. Next slide. Looking again at the distribution of concerns. So this is, again, ranking where poor is red and excellent is blue. Looking at these different dimensions of smell, taste, clarity, and mineral residue, you can see, again, the distribution is pretty even across the entire city. So it is a general kind of concern. Next slide, please. So I wanted to get a sense of what is the issue that is the biggest concern to residents. And so what we did is we took those different dimensions and we did a correlation with the satisfaction of the drinking, the cooking, the bathing, and the washing. And what we saw is that the lowest scores were for drinking, and the biggest issue folks had was the taste. So the lower they rated the taste, the less happy they were with the drinking, essentially, to a greater degree than the clarity or the free of the mineral issue. Smell of water was a close second, but number one was the taste. Next slide. And again, looking at these characteristics in terms of yes is the yellow, where they have an earthy concern. No is the green, where they don't. Again, yes, no is the metallic with the chlorine. And you can see, again, there's not a strong geographically isolated area where they're having these concerns. It is something that's more generalized. Next slide. And when we do a grid of this, just to put them side by side, you can see that for the drinking water, the metallic is the thing that came out the most. And one of the challenges is that we don't really have, the smoking gun. So these percentages are all pretty close. The metallic as the 30% is statistically significant. So it's more than your margin of error of these other two areas. But again, they're fairly close. Next slide. We wanted to give residents an opportunity to say in their own words what kind of challenges they have with the water. This is one of those open-ended comments that Krista had mentioned. And this is where I want to put a caveat on this. As you go through and you look at these comments, keep in mind that the comments are really designed to help us understand the data better. They don't replace the data. And the way that we're wired is as we're reading through comments, if you see the same comment popping up 4 or 5 times, then it really starts to stick in your brain. But keep in mind that's 4 or 5 comments out of the, almost 1,200 people that responded. So it's great for helping you to understand the results, but make sure that you're not using just the comments to draw your conclusions. So we did some of these word clouds, and the words that come up the most often are the largest ones in the cloud. And then we go through the comments and we look to see what are the themes that are wrapped around each of these words. So you can see the word filter up there at the top. And essentially the comments are that residents, they feel like they need to filter their water. So they're not comfortable drinking it straight from the tap. The word taste, residents mainly complaining about the moldy taste. There were some talking about the chlorine or metal taste, but most of the comments were around the pond flavor. And then smell, again, is that moldy, fishy smell in the city water that people mentioned the most. Next slide, please. Here's the question where we asked if they would be willing to fund some of these improvements. And you can see how much people are willing to spend on a monthly basis if the city is able to correct these issues. From $2 a month, $5 a month to $10 a month, or no, they don't support any additional payment at all. So essentially, if you were to take these 3 bars on the right and stack them together, that tells you that essentially around 60% of your residents are willing to pay, some amount in addition per month to have this particular concern resolved. Next slide. Again, we have an open-ended, so just another opportunity for them to share with the city what they would like you to know. from a drinking water perspective. You can see the word pay being very large. This is where the comments are a little bit different from the staff. We saw that 56% are willing to pay something, but there are a number of folks in the comments saying, no, we don't want to pay for drinkable water. We're already paying for it. We want to make sure that you're giving us drinkable water for what we're already paying. The word improve. So again, residents want to see improvements to the quality of the drinkable water and safe. People want to make sure that the water is also safe. We know that it is safe from an analysis standpoint, but from a concern standpoint, from the perceptions, that's something to work on a bit more. Next slide, please. And I believe that's the end of my pieces. And Kristen, do you want to hold off on questions or take them now until we get to the rest of the conversation?
I think if we hold off for just 1 second, Ryan's going to do this slide, and then I think we can open it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you, William. Excellent job presenting the facts. We will be working on processes and to get communication on our water treatment process out to the community. I can say, we're in Public Works and the Water Department. We are not satisfied with these results. We love the fact that we're as sustainable as we can be, but we do want our residents to love to drink our water as well. So, there are 1,200 people saying that there's a challenge here. We aren't hiding from it or anything like that. We want to do something to make it better so that everyone, it can be safe and you can like to drink the water while retaining all the sustainability benefits that we talked about. Our recommendation to do that would be to order a comprehensive drinking water taste and odor study. We do need some professional help to go through some of the things that could help us determine what it is. You heard William say on a number of occasions, we were hoping there was a smoking gun. We were hoping it would be a geographic thing. Okay, all the red's happening in this area, something's going on there. Or the one slide that was the most challenging for us to figure it out was the one where 30% of the residents felt it was a metallic taste problem. 27% felt it was a organics or musty, pondy smell, and 26% said it was chlorine. Each one of those things has an incredibly different type of process to fix the problem. So the survey's awesome, it tells us we have a challenge, but it does not get us to the point of saying, here's what your challenge is, go fix it, provide us some options. So that's why we're recommending that we go about this. We review the history of the plant and everything that's occurred and everything that we've done to date. We would be very intentional about reaching out to residents. There are quite a number who said they were willing to be reached out to. So we'd bring them out. Perhaps we go to their house, taste their water, bring them in to taste it right at the plant, do all these different things to try and maybe they thought it was metallic because it was a choice, but really when they got into it, it was the musty pondy thing that was the problem. We just don't know. There are ways to evaluate our processes. Right now we're doing treatment to be as efficient as possible, which results in a different percentage of surface water versus groundwater that we're putting out into the system. Maybe there's a way to do it differently that could end up with a more homogeneous product all year round. We could do some more testing of our water supplies from a taste and odor perspective. And then once, hopefully we could dial into something, and then the study would also then allow us to start opening up some recommendations, be it operational, be it maybe this chemical would help you. Perhaps it's a new feature for treatment at the plant that would be recommended to solve the problem. Something like this we could do. Our consultant that we would utilize said this would be approximately a $65,000 study. This wouldn't affect your tax rate at all. This would be out of the sewer and water fund. So our recommendation is to add this to the CIP for 2023, and it will have just an extremely small modification to the water and sewer rates. That would be our recommendation. So that is the last slide.
So to William and you and Carissa, did we ask them which water that they've tasted around the metro area that they thought was really good drinking water?
We did not ask them that, Madam Mayor.
Well, I have asked some people who told me that they didn't, and they came from Minneapolis, and they say, oh, Minneapolis water is really good. And I said, well, they have surface water, and that's what we have. I don't know if they have any groundwater that they mix with the surface water, if everything comes out of the Mississippi for Minneapolis.
Basically all Mississippi, yep.
So I'm thinking, so if that's the case, maybe we can find out what's in their water that is lacking in our water.
Well, they have, the first time we talked about this, Ryan, you said they do something different.
They soften their water.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
for members of the council, I'll let Ryan answer the question, but it's kind of an apples to oranges comparison in terms of infrastructure.
Well, yeah, because ours is it's a blend of ground and surface.
We do have our sewer and water superintendent here today, but it is apples to oranges is correct. It is a much larger, much more sophisticated operation, and a much, they are able to do a lot more with the huge revenues.
You want to introduce our superintendent?
Yes, Tony White, our utility superintendent, is here tonight, and perhaps he could just talk to the question.
Welcome to the table, Tony.
Thank you. Yeah, just real quick, Minneapolis uses lime softening. It's a very intensive process with labor, staffing, footprint type of treatment.
But they
also
don't have ground.
Correct.
So that in itself is a factor that we have that they don't have.
Correct. And then they also utilize ultrafiltration as well, which reduces the particles that's in the water that makes it out into the system. That's kind of the big difference in the type of treatment we have compared to the type of treatment that they are running.
Yeah. So Pepsi uses a reverse osmosis, and everything that they do is, I mean, their product is water and sugar. And so they have to have and I've gone through their plant with the new reverse osmosis plant that they have. It's really high tech.
Correct. Reverse osmosis is probably one of the most extensive types of treatments as far as removing stuff out of the water.
Yeah.
The problem with reverse osmosis is is getting rid of the brine, the solution that you're left over with of all the stuff you took out of the water. It's hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
And so like I said, those would be treatment options on the backside of a study of what residents are seeing.
Yeah.
For anyone who's
Right.
wondering, Pepsi does not purchase the water from us.
No,
They
and
pump it
Pepsi
themselves.
goes down to the groundwater themselves.
they're
They-
100%
they-
groundwater.
They drill right down to the aquifer. So they're using the same aquifer, the Jordan. And, but they use reverse osmosis, and yes, the brine, but Pepsi, this is their product. Water and sugar is the product that they have. Yeah,
You didn't ask this, but there's not enough quantity of water for us to take all surface water.
No.
It has to be a mix. It's just an augmenting of our total. So we couldn't do the Minneapolis system and take all surface water. A, our plant isn't set up for that level, and B, I don't think the amount of water that we need is available that route, so.
Well, and the thing is, prior to 2009, we used all groundwater.
Yep.
And I don't, did,
Phenomenal, yeah, and our water was incredibly tasty. Some folks wrote about Edina, and their well water is fantastic. Our water before the treatment plant expansion was the rave. It was phenomenal drinking water and didn't have these things, so it's the introduction of the surface water that's caused the problem. I'm curious what sort of filtration we would need to do to get out some of the sediment and maybe filter out some of this chlorine and this chrome and this swampy smell. Can it be done without trying to soften that? You mentioned that they use a lime process to soften water. If we chose not to soften, but just filter it to get out all these other impurities, is there a path to filtration for us?
Well, softening is adding things to the water. It's not reducing.
Yeah, and
It's adding. So.
I don't, we haven't talked about it, but I don't necessarily think we're interested in trying to soften water. We're just trying to get all the crud out of the water and some of the smell. And there's some people that wrote in their comments that they put in a heavy-duty filtration system. It's not adding anything. It's simply multiple filters to get all the stuff out. And they say when they clean their filters out, there's rust and calcium and all this, sediment that you see in the bottom of your glass. If you put our tap water in a glass and let it sit long enough, you'll see it all sitting at the bottom of the glass, right? So in their case, they filter all that and other things out, like the chlorine comes out, and they say their water tastes phenomenal. And all they're doing is just filtering our water.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so to answer your question, yes, there is a way to put together some sort of ultrafiltration system for the surface water system. It obviously would be building a new treatment facility type site. Again, I know it would be, require additional employees as well. The process is very finicky. It does, I know that I have heard from operators in Minneapolis that said that their ultrafiltration is difficult to keep it operating properly. Because you're filtering to such a fine level. If those filters break, then the stuff just gets right through it, right through the filter. So.
Okay.
There is other options as well that I'm aware of, that instead of trying to absorb the taste and odor molecules like we're currently trying to do, there is processes that can destroy the molecules that people are seeing and tasting, which there are other municipalities that are looking into it. It's kind of the newest form of taste and odor treatment that they're looking into for ozonation, basically, is what it is. So you use ozone to destroy molecules. So.
I think Councilmember Workman had a question.
Oh, okay, Vince.
Savage gets all of their water from us, correct?
Yeah.
About 85% is what I'm aware of.
Is this?
They produce 15% of their own.
Did we check in with their people? Are they getting the same type of calls and complaints in Savage?
We checked in with the person who represents them at us, and they've never,
have any complaints.
have never complained as a
Said.
customer, no.
Yeah.
They are further downstream, it takes, so it could be that things dissipate a bit as it goes out.
And they store their water in their water towers?
We're the filter for
Well,
that.
Yeah, we supply them, once it gets to the 42 border there, it's their deal, so.
And they're not, we treat their water before it gets to their.
It's the same Burnsville water.
Goes through.
Yep. Yeah, there is no separate, we don't filter it or something at the Savage border or anything like that.
I will just add that this survey was for Burnsville residents. So Ryan's answer is, based on Public Works folks talking to Public Works folks, but we focused the survey.
Just anecdotally.
Yep.
I mean,
Right.
if there was something there, I'm sure they would know about it.
Absolutely, they would be complaining.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be curious to see if we dig into this more, if this is something that is more on a house-to-house level, with the type of piping within the home or what, because to get some of these results, they're saying, one day it smells fishy, one day it smells metallic-y, and one day it smells like chlorine. I mean, that's all over the board.
Yeah.
Right, which is our challenge.
Mayor and Council, I was actually, Councilmember Workman, I was going to say the same thing before you did. I think slide 20 captures the challenge that we face the best, right? That really 30% what statistically might be something for us to pay attention to is really, as I understand, the one area that we feel that we treat for the best, right? In terms of our current infrastructure. And the kind of the disparate across chlorine, earthy, fishy, metallic, that creates a challenge for us in that from a staff perspective, we want you to have this information, but our recommendation to do more study on this is really a reflection of there's no absolute clarity here, and some of the solutions, Councilmember Keeley, particularly that you're suggesting, or the comparison, Mayor Couts, to Minneapolis, would be significant capital investments. And I don't want to, staff doesn't want to jump to the conclusion that we need to put really big, scary numbers in front of you in the community to talk about this issue before we best understand it.
Yeah.
That's where our recommendation's coming.
Kara?
If I may ask, how much water do we treat a year?
Last year, we were on pace, or we did about 3.4 billion gallons. We're currently on about that same pace this year.
Thank you.
And the
And that's-
overall ratio, 30% of it is probably, about 30%, I would say, is surface water. The other 60% is groundwater.
But you're
Roughly.
treating both. When you're combining and mixing, you're treating both before it's distributed out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Every day we treat both ground and surface water.
And they're combined
at
And they're
different-
combined.
ahead of time before going out.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I may
Kara.
ask, so for reverse osmosis, that is would that be an entirely different
Yeah.
treatment plant? Or would that be something you do in addition? How does that go?
It would be an entirely new type of treatment.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's highly
And I
expensive.
asked because so when my son was in Air Force Reserves, the Air Force had portable reverse osmosis, I don't even know what you would call it. But they were taking them to other cities in the world, large cities, to install them, and they were doing that as part of our SOFA agreements with various countries. And then that was part of their training, was to hook those up. And the value of them was they were smaller, they were portable, and they could be hooked into a water system rather than replacing and retooling. But I don't know if that is kept particular to the military, and they have not released how to do that, or that type of equipment.
I would say the restrictions would be is just to treat this amount of water in such a large quantity to feed it out, and then that adds the other complications of getting rid of what's left over. Where do you send it? The waste.
Right.
And a footprint of trying to add it into our current infrastructure that we have. It would all play a part on whether there was space to be able to put enough filters in even to treat that quantity of water.
Got it, because these were for cities that are much larger than Burnsville. Like, a couple of them were very large cities in Germany. So considerably larger population.
It's, obviously, I don't know the situation.
Yeah.
It seems unlikely that they could bring a portable plant in and
Yeah.
like that and treat the entire water supply for a large city, but that's not a fact. That's just speculation on my part.
Okay.
So
Let me find out from this commander and see
can
what I
you
find out on
put
that.
up your slide on next steps from an operational perspective, please?
Absolutely.
So from staff's perspective, what we need to do is to further study. And this will come out of because water is an enterprise, it'll come out of that enterprise fund. And it won't affect the levy because it's an enterprise fund. So what you're suggesting is that we move forward with this $65,000 study that will give us more information as to what we need to do then.
Yes, and we won't move into study water treatment processes until we
Yeah.
are able to figure out, or at least believe we've figured out, are we solving for chlorine, are we solving for or hard water, are we solving for musty, are we solving for metallic? So we don't want to figure out what might be the winning, what will solve the process until we know what we're trying to solve for.
Well, I think, members of the council, I would say that we direct staff to continue with the work that they're doing. Because when you look at all of the findings of all of the comments, everybody has a different opinion.
Yeah.
And a lot of it also is probably preference. Ryan, you and I drink the water and like it.
Yeah.
And, Councilmember Keeley says you can fill up your pitcher or glass of water and leave it there and it'll settle down. So in making coffee, I fill my carafe and set it, and it's ready. So in the morning, I just fill it into the water reservoir. And I don't see any of that.
I don't either.
You don't see it either? So,
We fill 5 water bottles at our house every day with tap water. And there's no issues
Yeah, I
at
don't,
my house, but my next door neighbor Doug buys bottled water.
yeah, and so
He says
it's,
he hates
it's a matter of preference, so I think we need to, because.
Cilantro.
Yeah, exactly, cilantro.
Yeah, yeah, because it smells like, yeah, yeah, there are people who like cilantro and the others think it's like soapy water. It tastes like soap. So, yeah, so
But if there's a
anyway,
way to get it fixed,
yeah. So I don't
Is it even
see
fixable?
that
well, that's the other part.
residue in my coffee pot. And you fill 3 and you don't see the residue either. Okay, members of the council, your direction for staff, continue with finding out more information with a study that digs a little deeper with these, with the metallic, the musty, and what was the other one?
Chlorine.
Chlorine, yeah, yeah.
Good luck.
We'll bring it back on a future agenda shortly then, if that is the clear direction.
Yes, please.
Yeah, is that?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
this is a
this
pretty
is-
damning report. I think we got a major problem.
Yeah.
We've known about it for years. We just haven't done anything till now.
Yeah.
I think we need to move forward with taking care of it.
Yeah, so Greg, it is unanimous.
Just a quick follow-up question. I'd be curious to know if the Kramer digging deeper has any impact on any of this with their pumps at the quarry.
We're hoping that's gonna help. We're hoping it's gonna help. And there's some other process things that may get it, like I said in the presentation, right now the percentage of groundwater and surface water is changing throughout the year. Maybe a process improvement is we try to keep it more similar, so it's, but this is the kind of stuff we gotta learn out from a true expert that, so it may not result in a recommendation for a huge investment. Maybe we try something and it's, different
And
along
to
the
your
way.
point that I heard, because we don't hear any complaints from Savage, but you say that when we distribute the water to Savage, then it goes and it sits in their tank before they distribute it to the residents. Wonder if there's a holding pattern for us to.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, until all of that dissipates before we distribute out. I don't know, you guys are the experts, we're not. You're the subject matter experts. This is an operational deal, and,
I have a quick question. I know we have been dealing with this for years, ever since we built the surface water plant. How many different formulas have we gone through now to try and get that
a lot.
balance? Ryan?
I don't know that I can answer the question. We're a lot of experiment, or, experiment is not the right
So
word.
we
but
have been trying to
adjusting,
do something.
but we had
All
2 or
the
3,
time.
we had Black and Beach help us.
Black and Beach is our current one, who
Is-
does a really
and
nice
they're
job
still
with us.
here, and then the first group, there was a,
SCH was the designer of it, yep.
yeah, and so, but, I don't know, you guys, you work with the consultants who are subject matter experts
You
around
can
here.
Compare the amount of calls that we get from like 2009, it's not close. I mean, we're probably getting 1 or 2 a month out the minutes, but it could be some people are just resigned to it. So I'm not discounting the problem.
They become accustomed to the
So,
taste.
Yeah, and, like we'll say, some people, I can drink it and not taste something, but everyone experiences differently. So,
And anybody who goes out to dinner with me or else just going out, I always order water,
thank you.
right? Everybody knows.
Taste it and evaluate.
What's your
it.
beverage? Water. Lemon, no ice.
No ice, yes.
A martini might be more healthy. Just throwing that out, that alcohol in there and it
Yeah,
cleans the.
yeah, add
yeah.
some alcohol.
I can go with that one.
A health tonic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Okay,
the vodka kills the smell.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so anyway,
Treat
there's
our
a
water with
unanimous
Okay,
to move forward
we'll put it on there and we'll work
On,
with
I
the,
think we're on
on
something.
staff's recommendation.
You'll hear for more from us.
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much. We appreciate your understanding on this
Okay,
concern.
well, the next one is also yours, Ryan.
Everything we do is awesome.
Yours
Ryan.
and Jeff. This is the hardship on Boulevard mowing. Yeah, I knew this was come back. Okay, Jeff.
Quick pause for technology. Okay. Evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm here to give you an update on Boulevard mowing. Guess for the public's benefit, we traditionally mowed side and backyard. Lots of long roadways for a number of years until that was no longer sustainable. And then we started mowing the hardship boulevards, which are the boulevards that have barrier that prevents access to easy maintenance of the boulevard. Then we started into the opt-in hardship boulevard mowing program. Currently, in the hardship boulevard mowing program, there's 174 parcels that would qualify. About 1/3 opt-in and have us maintain the boulevard for them. About 1/3 have taken private ownership of the boulevard and maintained it themselves. And currently we're sitting at about 1/3 that goes unmaintained. We do have challenges with the program, and that's why I'm here tonight. Community members are generally dissatisfied with the program. Either that it should be just a basic maintenance service. Well, they're all over the board. We should be right. I guess the number one thing I hear when I take calls is that this should be done from the city level. You shouldn't be putting it on to the individual property owners. So, then the revenue we collect from the opt-in program is hardly covering the costs of just administering the program. So, I got a couple of options that we'd like to explore in the next mowing season. This isn't going to affect anything currently. Eliminate the hardship mowing program and utilize $25,000 in the 2023 budget to mow all hardship boulevards. Getting rid of our original poor optics of just mowing the hardship boulevards and not mowing the adjacent parcels as we travel in between them.
Yeah.
So this would go, the recommendation is go from the nearest ingress egress point, mow up to the hardship and back, removing the original bad optics that got us here in the first place. So there isn't another alternative would be basically develop a fee-for-service program onto the utility bill for collecting of our costs of
Don't
the
shake your head,
program.
Madam Mayor, that's what we do for snow plowing or the sidewalks.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
remember,
model we
it came
already have
back.
proven.
It came back to us to do it.
But we do it, we assess and we do it. Everybody pays.
Yes, Ryan.
I'd just like to add that really nobody likes the program
Yeah.
that we got now. The people who opt in are unhappy, they have to pay $125. The
Yeah.
ones who aren't in there are unhappy, it's not being done. Our staff is unhappy, they want to do a good job. They want to get this done, they don't like looking at it. I don't know, Jeff, if you go back to that one with the pictures on there, like, the bottom picture, is what it looks like out there. They don't want to
They
leave
mow it
that
up.
one go, and while the next one's there, some of the administrative things, you can see the pink lines on the curb and sidewalk there. That's what we're going out doing, trying to tell a seasonal employee, mow here. And then the second one, you can see where we've whited it out the next year, because they didn't opt in year 2. So, in just keeping track of all this is administrative. It's just, the program just isn't very
And
effective.
the
So-
optics don't look good, because we get complaints of people saying they're going right by it and they lift their blade, and that's not a good thing about talking about staff. They're coming up to it, lift their blade, and then going on to the next one. And they say, why can't they mow that on their way to the next one?
Right.
Doesn't give you good reviews from the citizens. And you know that, you've seen that in those emails that I get and pass on to you guys.
So we're recommending scrapping the program, and what's currently in the budget would cover the cost that we would need to go mow up to those and back and mow everything in between. That's what we'd like to do. We think we could do the best job that way. That's what we're recommending.
Okay, Kara?
So I am in favor of eliminating the Hardship Boulevard mowing program. But I also don't see why our residents are paying for the city to mow only certain people's lawns and a certain portion of their lawn. If that's your lawn to take care of. And I do understand that it's a hardship, but it's a hardship because the homeowner has a fence.
Yeah.
Which was their choice to have a fence without a gate to get out. And there are a lot of houses that I see that they have a gate on that back part, so they pop it open and they mow it. Or, they're going the long way around. But that's their property, and I do not understand that we are taking money from residents to mow someone else's lawn. So I would scrap it all together. If it's your lawn, it's your lawn. Take care of it.
Well, when Mary Sherry was here is when we put in place where we mowed, and it had to do on Park Avenue. When she would come down to City Hall, there was that long line of homes with the fence. And they would complain about it because nobody goes around to mow that portion. And if we're going to want a vibrant city, then we need to make sure that the city is vibrant. And, oh, by the way, do you all remember when the council took away $31,000 that we had to spray all of the weeds and the medians and then come close to fire muster? And the city looked awful with all of those weeds. So I decided to go weed it from 5 to Parkwood, where people were getting off the freeway to come down that way to get into the parade lineup. So, and then of course I had some help from the Rotaries who came and helped with the shrub roses because that was really bad. But the next year we put the money back in, 31,000. This is 25,000 if we want the city to look good.
Well, then maybe we should mow all of everyone's lawn and just make it a big homeowners association.
Well, everybody-
I'm in an association.
So you guys already have people mowing your
I
lawns.
like having that done, and I pay money because I'm lazy and I don't wanna do it.
Right now, everybody,
You
everybody is doing what they can, but the thing is, these are some of those properties that they can't get to. Yeah, Dan G.
I kind of like the idea of we're there, just mow it. To me, it's about making the city look nice and inviting to people, not just our residents, but future residents and businesses. Nobody likes to drive through a town and see tall grass, short grass, tall grass. They don't feel like the area is taken care of at all. And some people, I hear what you're saying, Kara, but some people they're not going to take care of it. They're just not going to do it. And we don't enforce that because we don't enforce except by complaint in areas like that. So we're already there. I mean, just mow the lawn and be done with it.
But are we already there?
We are already there.
Yeah.
In many places, yeah, we're close by, but we would be going up a further distance in areas. So I would say it's somewhere between what the two of you are saying.
Yeah.
Is sometimes we would be going up and other times.
So I just want to take care of our neighborhoods.
Yeah. Dan K.
Can you go to your alternative slide? Because we already have this established with sidewalk snow plowing, this is what I would do, because I don't have a problem eliminating the program because it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't agree that the city should just be paying for 171 properties to get mowed, or whatever percentage of those that never did anything with it. And those 171 can be part of the assessed fee, and it's all going to get mowed. And if a person owns their property and they mow it anyway, then our blades are just gonna go over the top of it to the next one, and there won't be anything to mow, but that'll be up to them. But I just think we already have a model to use, let's use it. I don't think we should just give free mowing away.
Then it needs to be priced that they are paying what it costs to do it. Because otherwise, we are asking other residents to pay for someone else's lawn to be mowed.
Is the
Yeah.
$12 a month the number that covers, is that a cost recovery number per property?
Yeah, it's the 25,000 divided by the 174.
It's 25,000,
You get your
yeah.
boulevard mowed for $12 a month. You get it mowed weekly, right? Or
Then
whatever.
I would be fine with that.
Ryan?
Just two things to consider. So the 2/3 of the folks who didn't opt in or did mow it
Yeah.
would now be charged that. And that I think the only larger thing on your utility bill would be water usage. So just so you know, this is a much larger charge than the sidewalk snow plowing or what have you.
What
So
was that, is that $5 or $6 or $8 or something like that?
sidewalk snow plowing?
Yeah.
It's definitely less than that.
Less than $5?
Yeah.
Because
There's
it's-
so many parcels to split it
Oh,
over.
yeah, right.
This is a
Yeah.
large,
Yeah.
Yeah.
small number, yeah.
Right, this is
It's
smaller.
very small, the
Yeah.
sidewalk for snow removal. It's a very small area because it's all going around schools.
Sure.
Well, I think it's more, there's many more parcels who are participating in the program, so the costs are split over a much larger paying
Yeah.
ratepayer group.
How many times do we mow a month, those boulevards?
We keep it under control, is the the policy.
Depends on growth?
Yeah.
Okay, so it could be 2 times in July when it's getting fried, could be 4 times in May when it's getting a lot of rain and a lot of growth.
Yeah.
That's a very inexpensive amount to pay to have something done that a large group of people don't want to do.
I'll chime in.
What was that, Vince?
I haven't chimed in on this yet. I like Jeff's presentations. What was that, 3 slides?
I got help cutting it down.
Yeah, Hugo. Hugo. Here's the guy who just jumps on everything. I mean, he jumps on everything and gets it done.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Short and simple. I want to scrap this because it's just clunky, and I think Jeff and our team has much better things to be doing with their time than what they've been doing with this program. And we talk about efficiencies, and this just doesn't seem efficient at all, what we've been doing. I also think about boulevards, and that's kind of a gray area to me. There is some assumption that there is shared responsibility with the city on boulevards. When somebody has an issue with a tree on a boulevard, our forestry department goes out and takes care of it. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think
Yeah.
we invoice homeowners for tree work on boulevards. So then it kind of begs the question, is that then what we need to talk about next? I had somebody call me last week that had a limb coming off on a boulevard tree, and forestry was out there the next day because of Hugo to address it, and I don't think they got an invoice for that.
No,
I
we
don't
went
think
out
they
and
will.
took care of it.
So I guess I'm kind of in the same school of thought where boulevards are very visible to the public. It's kind of just general maintenance as the city at large. I don't think that us mowing these boulevards is a favor, or we're doing. They're still mowing their lawn. This to me just kind of falls, like I said, into a gray area of somewhat of a public right of way, because it shares space with the public sidewalk as well. But we can't keep doing what we've been doing, because after hearing about what we've been doing, we can't keep doing it with the spray painting different colored marks. It's not good government. We gotta scrap it.
Yeah, so you're saying eliminate and and take
So
care of
let's
it.
just eliminate it and take care of it.
In what way?
So you're not,
Because there's two different methods to take care of it.
What were we doing before we had this?
we took care of it.
Just took care of it.
We took care of it.
We mowed people who didn't want to have to bother mowing their own lawn. We just did it for them.
But there
Which
are a
is-
lot of people who took care of theirs, but
I just
it's
think
just like
sets up a
people who
bad
don't take
precedent.
care of their property. And then a lot of our,
If we
Why-
start
why-
charging,
Why wouldn't we just
people.
mow everyone's boulevard then? Why would we give certain treatment to some homeowners and not to others?
because we're talking about ones that
Hardship.
are difficult to get to.
Yeah.
Because they have a fence on their own property that they wish to have.
That was their
well,
choice.
they probably bought the house.
So then are we gonna go to each homeowner and say, put in a gate? You just bought this house last year, go put in a gate?
No, we don't tell them what to do with their property. That's the point, because it's their property. It's theirs to maintain. Now, if we're going to say, well, because you have a fence, it's difficult for you to get to, which it is. I get that. I get that it's not easy to get to it. But if we say, well, if that's what happened, we're gonna mow this for you, but we're not gonna mow other homeowners' boulevards. So if we're saying the boulevard is not the homeowner's property and it is a shared piece of property, and that's why we're going to maintain it, then what is the difference? Why would we not just mow everybody's?
Why don't we?
I don't know, I'm asking. If that's what we wanna do,
I think we're just going after properties where we don't think the homeowner is going to mow it because they'd have to walk a city
It's a
block around to
hardship.
do it.
It's hardship.
So rather than have that fight with the homeowner of saying, get out and mow your lawn, we're saying we're just gonna take it on for $25,000. I mean,
Yeah.
our budget is massive and we're splitting hairs over
Yeah.
this.
Okay, so what you're saying, just eliminate it, don't even consider the alternative program here, because we're already, it's $25,000.
Yeah, and it's about making sure Burnsville doesn't look overgrown and
Yeah. Okay. Danji,
Eliminate it and mow.
okay, and Karen, and
I don't
Dan,
agree
Kay,
with
you're
having
saying?
other people pay to do that. If we want to do that, I would want it to be that it's being paid for and not being paid for by everyone else. Because I believe it's unfair.
but we do that, I don't use soccer fields and I pay for those
Yeah.
to get mowed.
Yeah,
I don't play soccer.
yeah.
Do you own the soccer field?
Oh, but I think the
If you owned
premise
the
is the
soccer
same.
field.
I'm still
And
paying
someone
for
else
it.
owned a soccer field, and we'd be like, well, we're gonna mow this other person's soccer field, but we're not gonna mow yours, and we want you to pay for this other soccer field to be mowed. That's what we're doing.
All right, Dan and Kara, you say you want the alternative program.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
a easy, fair,
I'm with-
existing precedent to follow.
Yeah, from the very beginning. We were mowing it. Everything worked fine. And we'll go back to where we were doing it before. So there is 3-2. There's a majority to eliminate the program, keep the city looking good. It's $25,000 for us to do that. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get done.
It's no different than $31 to get and spray all the weeds before they get really bad, and the boulevards, so that's spraying the weeds along the boulevards and the
We
medians.
spray people's home yards.
Pardon me?
We spray people's homes' yards.
Yeah, in front of the, between the sidewalk and the street, and
The medians.
what is right of way.
More of the medians, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and the medians, yeah. And it's probably more than $31,000 now.
And we
because, when
do
was
that when
it?
we're supposed to be like friendly with butterflies and.
Just one concern. I have a chain link steel fence and I have long grass in my backyard. And you're mowing, the city's mowing my median. Does code enforcement go, if a complaint comes in about my backyard? What am I gonna do as a homeowner? Well, you're mowing my median, why don't you just mow my yard?
Fence, or is that on the sidewalk side?
Inside chain link fence, but it's visible from the outside. The city keeps coming by and mowing my median, but won't mow my backyard.
Well, but the thing is, you have a chain link fence and it's the grass is in your yard.
I know, but the homeowner's gonna go, well, you're mowing my median, why don't you just mow my backyard?
There's a chain link fence.
I know it's a
chain link
ridiculous
fence and
example,
there
but I
isn't
think
an
it-
opening.
This
We're
sets a
splitting
bad
hairs
precedent.
and
Very bad precedent.
right now we have a 3-2. Just get it done. Make the city look nice.
We got a direction, thank you.
Yeah. Vibrancy. We want a vibrant community. Okay, the next one is the ELF grant discussion. Fire Chief BJ Jungman and Regina Dean.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I also was able to keep this to a couple slides. I wasn't able to keep it to 3, but a short number. Thanks.
Work on that, BJ.
Thanks to Regina, who did a phenomenal job putting this together. But Regina and I are here tonight to talk about.
I don't want that to be the precedent, like that you have to have 3 slides to get a compliment.
BJ, before you get rolling, just quickly for the council and for the community, our new community development director, Jeff Thompson, is joining us this evening. Jeff's first day was yesterday, so nothing like throwing Jeff right into the public process. Jeff joins Burnsville after several years as the community development director at Maplewood, and it is with great excitement that I introduce him to you and to our community. We're excited to have Jeff here, bringing his expertise and talent to our community. He's going to do great things, so welcome, Jeff.
Yeah.
So you're not
And
presenting
welcome,
that?
Jeff, and thank you for introducing Jeff to the community, and welcome. I hope your first 2 days, I think, okay, it's not so bad. I'm not.
Excellent, and I will be here tomorrow.
He's been fed twice today,
That's always good.
Keeping the presentation short. No, we're excited to have Jeff here, so.
Now on with the presentation.
Yeah,
BJ.
so we'll talk about Environmental Legacy Fund grant. So some background, 1.1 million was approved by Dakota County. We can use it for land acquisition, demolition, and environmental cleanup. It's subject to a JPA that is approved by the CDA, Dakota County CDA. Once the funds are approved by the CDA, the city can seek reimbursement. Funds must be expended by November 25th, 2022, unless an extension is approved. Hence why we are here today. That is a really small slide with a bunch of timelines. I would point out the important piece of that is the November 25th, 2022 expiration of our current grant. And we had 800 of the 1.1 million allocated for the MWF project on the US Bank property site. They withdrew their application as their purchase agreement expired with US Bank. So it leaves us in a position where we got $1.1 million of money that needs to be expended in the next 6 weeks. Not really feasible to do that. We want to go to the county with a strong reason for the extension, and we think the best way to do that is to have some idea of what kind of project we'd be using this for. We think that's our best case to the county, and we think there's many opportunities to use it. None of these are perfect. The timing isn't perfect, but the reality is we want to expend the $1.1 million in our community. So our great community development and economic development staff came up with some ideas. There's 2 properties it's kind of narrowed down to. The 301 and 315 Concord Place. There's a purchase agreement in place to be used for gap funding for land acquisition and demolition for the future of a multifamily development. As you know, we got 2 buildings going in there already, so this would be kind of a phase 3 ready to go. As you may see, there's a letter of support from the current property owners association. They, like I said, they do have a purchase agreement in place for all 8 units there. So that is property 1. Property 2 is the Wolfpack site at 14020 County 5. It'd be for gap funding, land acquisition, and demolition. Again, it'd be the future of a multifamily development. The point here is that there isn't a purchase agreement in place. we've had a developer interested in it, but there's nothing in hand. So it's a little further down the road than the Concord Place. So based on that, really our question is, and I'll let Regina fill any gaps I might have missed along the way. What is the council's priority for the use of the 1.1 million ELF grant if an extension is granted? And the staff recommendation on this is that we consider using the ELF grant for the Concord office building redevelopment project for gap funding associated with land acquisition and demolition. Again, I know this isn't a perfect solution, but we think the timeliness of this and having a purchase agreement in place is probably the most compelling case for us to use that money. So with that, Regina, anything to add?
The only thing additional I have, Chris Stoker with MWF Properties is available if there are any specific questions, but BJ did an amazing job going over the two options that we see as feasible, one being the staff recommendation.
Okay. Danji?
If we want to get right to it, I look at the Concord as the bird in hand. It's the one that there's a contract on that we can do something about quickly. I do have concerns that the county might not give us an extension if we don't come with something, and we've been playing with this for a few years. I've never thought it would be this difficult for us to spend $1.1 million in redevelopment in our city, but it has. And I don't want to lose that money. It's and it'll finish out that little area where those other two buildings are going and get rid of that. That is an eyesore, that Concord building, and it just helps for the entire heart of the city area itself. So that would be my belief is what we should do.
Vince?
Yeah, we need to have something prepared if we're gonna ask the county for an extension, and this is ripe for redevelopment, and if all the heavy lifting's already been done, I'd be in favor of it. My only, I guess, ask would be that we have a discussion with MWF when something comes forward, which I know we will, about how this development will look. But I'll save that for another discussion.
Yeah. Kara?
Would the city be putting any of our funds in towards this? I know in some of the other projects we had looked at, we would be getting the grant, but the city would also have to be putting in considerable amount of money. Would the city be putting in any other funds with this?
Thanks for the question. I can answer that,
Go
BJ.
ahead.
The proposal would be not to add any additional city funds. We would certainly be open to working with the developer to partner in any grant opportunities through either the Department of Employment and Economic Development or through the Metropolitan Council, but no city additional funds associated.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate
Economic Development doesn't have any funds. Yeah. Dan K?
What was the but-for test that this particular project passed to qualify for ELF grant?
So we will be working with the developer if there is consensus or a majority of the council says move forward with this project. They'll submit a application, financial assistance application with the city. They'll be provided to provide the required application materials, and then we'll work with Allers, our financial consultant, to analyze to verify that they will meet the but-for test. That portion has not happened yet.
Okay. So it's
Actually,
a stretch to.
Pardon me?
What we're trying to do is take a leap of faith to put these ELF funds on the hook for this particular project, which may not even pass the but-for test.
Yeah, well, they did approve this 1.1 according to the background, and remembering that we can purchase it for demolition. We can use it for demolition and also for land acquisition, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, BJ?
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, we don't have any project that's ready with a but-for
Yeah.
test. So yeah, unfortunately, again, timing-wise, we're stuck with kind of a leap of faith in putting something forward to the best of our ability based on what we have in front of us. Again, it's not a perfect scenario, but we want to put our best foot forward, so.
Could we, if this one were put forward and we were granted an extension and this one failed the but-for test, do we have an option to flip it to one of the other projects that we might see as more valuable to take control of and demolish?
I don't know
When-
that the county grant has any restrictions if they extend it, unless they give us an extension that says you can only use it for
Okay,
this. So I think it's yet to be
so
determined.
Earning the extension is really the key here.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then the project could actually,
Yeah.
could move to something else if needed. Right?
And that's if we get the extension.
Right, I
I
mean,
don't
step one
know.
It's not a
is,
sure thing, but,
correct.
okay,
We just don't believe that if we just go forward and say we want an extension without anything in hand.
Sure.
We,
And we just lose it.
Yeah.
we don't think that we have a great chance. I don't even know
don't
the
think so.
percentage with this, but
Right.
we think that this is the way to put our best foot forward and best position the city so we don't lose the 1.1 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 1.1 million with the Concord is like shovel-ready, if you use that vernacular.
Yeah, if it's,
And,
if it can pass the
the-
but-for test.
Yeah, and the
which is
County
neat.
Road 5 property, that has been a property that we've gone over and over, and there, I don't have
The number
trust
keeps
with the
doing this.
ownership of that property to even see that they would have anything close to doing something on that property, if you remember. And there are a lot of constraints and challenges with that property because the county will not allow any in and out. Remember, we were also thinking about that for Fire Station 1, and even for public safety, they weren't going to allow us to put an in and out, and that means it'll go through the neighborhood, and the neighborhood did not like that.
Yeah, for
That's
that
a
kind of
lot
project.
more issues
The
with that
workforce
project.
housing that was proposed was a different kind of use that
Yeah,
was
but
probably
did-
going to pass and go through the neighborhood and be okay, because it's building another neighborhood, basically. Just
Yeah.
putting more homes in that area, right? As opposed to a different type of development,
And
like,
then, yeah, and the neighborhood has a huge voice. That neighborhood has a huge voice.
I know that a lot of them would like to see that redeveloped too. That voice is not saying, leave it as is, it's saying,
No.
please develop this, do something with it, right?
Yeah.
Not quite as loud as Diffley, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, the Concord piece is the most viable piece that I believe that if the county takes a look at it and says, okay, the ownership of the property with this letter that they sent us is on board with doing that. And this is to provide gap financing for this property, and that fits. If you're looking for a but-for, it fits what they're talking about with regard to how the funds should be used.
Well, yeah, it's triggered off of need and the project, so it's not just, well, hey, we got a building to demolish, can we have some money? We don't
No.
need it, but can we have it anyway, right? We've
Yeah.
had
Well,
projects come
you know, it
to us
goes
with that
through-
sort of approach.
Yeah, it goes through, and in reading the background and also from the past, in what the 1.1 and how we have used it in the past, we fit the criteria that they put on the table. So, it's a shovel-ready project with willing sellers. And is there a willing buyer? Yes, I see.
Is there need?
Yeah.
Is there, right, is there hardship? Is there soils? Is there, et
Well,
cetera, et
those are
cetera?
all the things that they have to do.
Yep.
Yeah, but at least when we come to the county, we say, we have willing sellers and we have a willing buyer, and there is a project that can be put in place. And it fits the criteria that they have given us. So if you're looking for a but-for, does it meet their criteria?
We don't know yet.
does. But
We'll
we
find
don't.
out, right?
But we don't have any, there's not going to be any TIF, so there's no but-for a TIF. We don't have economic development funds, so there is no need for a but-for that. We don't have any money.
Yeah, we're not talking about TIF, we're talking about the ELF.
Yeah, but the county has given us criteria, and we meet it. So, Concord, are you voting for Concord?
To get us time, yes.
Yeah. Concord?
Yes.
Concord? Concord? Concord, you have unanimous, Chief.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the direction on that. I appreciate it, and we'll get going, preparing a letter to the county and making sure the CDA is aware and package that up. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for all of your, and to you, Chief, I want to thank you for stepping up when we needed someone to help us with community development. And you've done a lot of heavy lifting. There was a lot of property maintenance stuff that you had to do with. And thank you for going with me to talk to neighborhoods who were frustrated and so forth. So thank you for everything that you have done, because you were wearing quite a few hats. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got great staff, and it's been a great opportunity to learn and work with them, so.
Thanks, BJ.
Thank you.
Thanks, Regina.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. Okay, we now move on. Michelle, the first roundtable item is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like the council to consider, we do need to have a special council meeting to canvass the general election results, and that needs to happen within 10 days after the general election. Looking at the calendars, I have noticed that quite a few are going to be out of town, especially that second week. We're not capable of getting it done that first week. Remember, we have Veterans Day on Friday after the general election, so that puts us in a time crunch. We have council members leaving for NLC on the 14th and 15th, and I want to make sure that we have a quorum. Let me pull up my calendar to make sure I'm not giving you a wrong date here. On the 15th and 16th, you'll be leaving for NLC. I'm proposing maybe late afternoon on the 14th as a potential date for the canvass, and wanted to see if, unless you have
Works for me.
What was that date again?
the Monday, the
14th.
November 14th.
I have a due date on the 13th, so I may
You may be there, you may not be there.
or may not be at a hospital on the 14th.
Well, with everything that's kind of happening, we know that the mayor's going to be out of town. We know you're leaving on the 15th, and I believe Councilmember Keeley is leaving on the 16th. So we want to make sure that if Vince is not available, we want to make sure we have
We have a
three.
quorum.
I can be here on the 14th.
I'm
Okay.
available on the 14th.
Okay.
And are we looking at 5 PM or 5:30, or what are we looking at?
It's open. We could look at 4 PM if that works better.
I mean, if the baby comes on the 13th, I can sneak out for 20 minutes and be here.
Yeah.
But if
Okay.
it comes on the 14th,
Yep, I understand.
We'll just tell the baby not to come then.
tell them when I get home.
Problem solved.
Just have it a week early.
Okay.
I'll just tell Andy, go get a
14th.
C-section.
Yeah, 5.
And
I got a
Dan, I don't
canvas.
know what your schedule looks like on that Monday, but I'm happy to do it
5:30 on the 14th.
at,
5:30.
that works for you? Okay,
I can do that.
Okay. Okay. Is the next one yours also, or is that, whose is the next one? Work session for holiday lighting.
Another scheduling item.
yes. Madam Mayor, I brought this forward. Our Public Works Director had talked about giving the council a tour of the holiday lighting, so this would need to
Yes.
happen after the holiday lighting event on November.
December.
Pull the calendar back up.
Yeah.
On November 23rd, so we need to happen
Thanksgiving
after that and preferably before it gets very deep with snow, so.
So 24th is Thanksgiving?
Yes, the 23rd is the holiday lighting ceremony, so it would need to be after that time, so.
Yeah.
And so Thanksgiving is that weekend. We could look at any time in the next couple of weeks there.
Like the 20th?
Did you have a preference on any of those dates, Ryan?
But are you back on the 28th,
29th.
29th?
We have a hold on the 29th.
We have a hold for a council work
Is that-
session.
Yes.
But
Are we still
maybe
doing that
not.
or not? Don't think we need to at that
I
point.
am currently locked out of Teams. Give me a moment.
forget your
budget
password?
discussion, just tentatively.
Oh, you know, just new IT stuff, Vince.
Tom's not here to yell at. So.
I know who I'm blaming internally. No doubt about
The
it.
November 29th council work session hold, currently, we do not have items scheduled. We have a November 22nd special legislative work session with our lobbyists on our legislative agenda and bonding. Right now, the 29th is held for any potential budget discussions that need to happen. I would suggest that the council is pretty late for budget discussions based on where we are, so
I think so.
we probably are open that night.
Okay,
Let's swap it then.
yeah,
Yeah.
So change out a meeting for a
just swap it and.
tour.
Yeah,
We'll do a work session tour on the 29th.
okay, very good.
You may recall that the conversation was, do we want to change it up? And we said, no, let's just take a look at what we got first in person so that we got a good feel, and then we'll
Yeah.
go through all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Will we we should invite the Burnsville Community Foundation to be with us,
That would absolutely be.
because they're helping us to raise the funds for the holiday lighting.
They're very tied to it and
Yeah.
helps everything else as
Yeah,
well.
and we
Agreed.
need to make sure that they're a part of this.
Yep. Good call.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Reports. Vince, do you have anything?
No.
No, Experience in Burnsville meets next week.
So the entire day.
Okay. Kara?
Prep for outdoor.
Just DBB is pushing ahead. We're trying to
Chad.
get it mapped out a little more on what it will look like to dissolve it. And then also, we went through areas where the county is still open to working with cities and that type of stuff. So we're just starting that conversation so we can get that going and look at, are we gonna do a different joint powers? So,
Okay,
but we're plugging along.
okay. Dan?
Nothing really major of note. MBTA and STA are having a lot of discussions. We're just teeing up discussions on post-pandemic ridership and express services, BRT routes, light rail, et cetera, with the Met Council. It's probably going to be a fairly lengthy discussion, prolonged over a period of time for ships as large as the Met Council to adjust to the post-pandemic reality that the workforce is not likely to go back to the office at the levels of pre-pandemic, and that we, from a transit standpoint, infrastructure, have to do some studies and figure out how we shift resources from one area that is obviously not as big as it used to be to other areas that are growing very, very quickly. In suburb to suburb service, that is fully recovered and growing past pre-pandemic levels. On-demand service, point-to-point on-demand is just constantly growing month over month, and it never ceases
I
to
see the
slow down.
buses all over the city
And so
now.
the need for more infrastructure, drivers, equipment, buses of different sizes, and so a lot of very, very difficult discussions, but we're nimble. The Suburban Transit Association members, MBTA, Southwest, we're very nimble, very efficient in what we do. I'm not sure that we could say the same thing about Met Transit with the projects of BRT lines that they've been putting in and planning. Orange Line is one of them, where there is empty buses going back and forth, north and south every day. And the Southwest Light Rail Line, which is $500 million in the hole, and there may be serious questions whether it should be built. And so this pandemic is probably going to have a pretty lasting, jarring effect on transit across the country in major metropolitan areas. So tough decisions and discussions coming over the next year or so.
Some good challenges that take people outside of the box and inside of the box.
Yeah.
Okay. Municipal Legislative Commission, Greg's been very busy this last week. So Hugo has been my partner on a lot of these, and Greg's weekly update gave you information about what happened at the Municipal Legislative Commission, and he also included the link to the slide that had to do with elections and what's going on in that regard. Otherwise, the Burnsville Community Foundation meets this Thursday, and you know, that's where we're at, so all is good. Okay, is there anything else, staff, BJ? Bethany, you have anything?
I'm good.
Hey, Jeff Thompson, you have anything?
I do not, Mayor.
Jeff and Ryan?
We're good.
You good?
I would
Okay.
like to thank my wife for 8 wonderful years as my anniversary today.
Right at your anniversary, yay! Happy anniversary!
Defying all the odds.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Hugo, anything else that you want to add to
Somebody
our
actually
meeting?
wants to hang out with me.
Okay. Anything from your side?
Nothing,
City
Mayor, thank you.
manager? And you don't have anything? With that, we stand adjourned by acclamation. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.